joining us. Welcome to Innovation Studios Celebrating Black Businesses panel. Today's conversation will be moderated by the one, the only, award-winning journalist, Jeneé Osterheldt. Throughout the panel, if you have any questions, please drop them below in the chat, and we will try to get to as many of them as possible at the end of the conversation. To kick things off, I'm going to ask all of the panelists to introduce themselves along with one quick fact, starting with Jeneé.
Hi, everybody. And thank you, Gian, for such a generous introduction. I'm Jeneé Osterheldt, Boston Globe culture columnist and creator of A Beautiful Resistance, centering Black joy and Black lives. And one fun fact about me is I have a boxer named Peppermint Patty who may disrupt this conversation at some point. Nia? Your mute is on.
All right, I'll start again. I'm Nia Grace, the owner, operator of Daryl's Corner Bar and Kitchen. We do comfort food and live music here in the south end of Roxbury, as I like to call it. Fun fact about me is that I really, really love to vacation, especially when the water and beach is involved, but I can't really swim, so.
I can go, if that's all right.
Yes.
Catherine T. Morris, founder, executive director of Boston Art and Music Soul. We're an organization that breaks down racial and social barriers to arts, music, and culture through cultural programming, creative placekeeping, education, advocacy, and workforce development. And we're known for our annual festival. Fun fact, I am the tallest, but the youngest of 5 children, and I love being introduced as the big baby sister.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jae'da Turner. I'm so excited to be here amongst this esteemed panel. I am the founder of Black Owned Boss, which was a platform that was created in March of 2019 to highlight and lift Black-owned businesses, places, and spaces in the greater Boston area. And that has since expanded to a number of different services in terms of retail, visibility, incubation, and a number of other programs. So excited to be here and talk about entrepreneurship. And my fun fact about me, I actually got into the space of entrepreneurship through a just amateur graphic design, and it turned into business. And I was actually at the kind of anniversary of the Million Man March, wearing something that I had just made maybe like a week before. And everybody's like, where do you get that? Where did you buy that? And I was like, maybe this will turn into a business for me. So here we are about 5 years later.
Yes, I love it. I just want to thank everyone for being in conversation with me today. And I'm so excited to be in a space with other Black women. So thank you, Gian, for bringing us together. That, as Jae'da's company would say, that's that Black girl magic. So Black women are the fastest and largest growing number of entrepreneurs and startups. They're also the most under-supported. We'll get to what that means in Boston in a second, but I want to talk about what it means just on a basic everyday world level, like just everyday living, what it means to be a Black woman who owns her own business in this climate. Catherine, do you want to go first?
Sure, why not? Why not? One of the things like I have to deal with in this space of something I cannot change, but I'm truly proud of, is not just being a Black woman, but being a tall Black woman and all the implications that come with that, and the perception of people's assumptions as I even walk into the room, where they see me, as a Black woman, but now I'm eye to eye with powerful people, and they have to look me in my face and acknowledge what I bring to the room, to the conversation. But what is disheartening is that these are the only physical traits that people have to judge me on, and it's unfair because of their own preconceived notions. Without even knowing my name, without even asking what I do, what I love, what brings joy to my life. These are the characteristics that people have. And then when I show my power, my agency, what I can do, all of a sudden those characteristics, those physical characteristics, are secondary, or they're pushed down the list. And I recognize that you're going to eventually have to accept who I am. Can't change it. It's what I step into. It's what I love. It makes people uncomfortable, which is great. I love that. But there's also a sense of nurturing about it. There's also a sense of power. There's grace. There's queendom that I love having as a Black woman.
Yes, big baby sister Catherine. I just want you to know before we get Nia to answer that recently I was interviewing someone for ABR and she was very tall and she said she hadn't met me in person yet. And when she saw me, she was like, "Oh, you have such tall girl energy." And I was like, that is the best compliment ever. I was like so hyped. I was like, oh, she said I have tall girl energy. So I'm here for you walking in them rooms, reigning supreme. Nia, you next.
Yeah, I think about a lot of the things that Catherine said as well in terms of, that first thing being judged on being a woman and then being a Black woman. I'm not as tall, if I'm tall at all, but one of my things was coming into an industry that has always been totally male dominated. I remember leaving corporate feeling a way that I had to really dumb down my intelligence as well as, my power, just to make my general manager at that point in time, feel comfortable with his, not for nothing, mediocrity. And so I remember that, and then getting into this industry, understanding that there were already so many preconceived notions about women in the restaurant industry. And so, to come to a venue that had, like so much like iconic history, I think, here in this city that had the ownership who was very present, and it just was totally male dominated. Every single manager that was at, Daryl's prior to me had all been men. Me coming into the space, it was almost like, well, here, you're kind of here to look good. And after that, we're going to really do all the real work. And that same kind of energy followed me when I showed up at the table for ownership. And for me, behind closed doors, I'm thinking that we're all kind of equal, and in terms of we know the work that we have to do and we know what it requires to be in this space. Yet my peers, and they were Black men who kind of looked like me in that way. They doubted me. They didn't think I was fit for the job. They didn't think I belonged at this table. They thought that in order for me to have been here, that there was a male counterpart who was actually doing all the work, but I might have been the one who was just maybe the face right now. And I still get that today, So to me, to be a Black woman and to be a Black woman entrepreneur, it's to totally be doubted. And I realize that I don't have to have that same kind of doubt, and it sometimes that you internalize it. And I think that that's one of the challenges for me, is that I had to set aside and say, no, like you say, I'm magic and I can do this and I belong here. And it doesn't matter that I'm figuring it out even a little bit along the way. I belong in this space and I want to reign, just like my sis, Catherine.
That's right. You're going to reign. And before we hold space for the beautiful Jae'da, I hope you all tune in and see Miss Nia Grace with her Uncle Nearest tastings and other spirits that she hosts. Is very powerful, and not for nothing, I've been to Daryl's before she owned it, and sweet tea under her leadership is much better. Jae'da, come be fabulous and share with us.
I love that. Come be fabulous. One of the things that I kind of think about in Black women in entrepreneurship, I kind of think about what is kind of inherent to women in general, Black women in general, and what we bring to different spaces, especially when we come into entrepreneurship. And then also why a lot of people kind of seek out, I would say, like refuge in entrepreneurship, because a lot of times they're leaving a space, and Nia and Catherine touch on this, of like having to claim space where you are. whether you're in corporate, whether you're in a trade work that tend to be male dominated. It's kind of like, why am I leaving this space, and what kind of spaces do I want to create where people don't feel that way when they're in different spaces that I'm creating, in different spaces that I'm participating in, contributing to. And I think that takes up a lot of space in entrepreneurship as a Black woman. It's like, am I building community? Am I making people feel welcome? Am I making people feel like they have a place here? And I think that shows up a lot in the businesses that Black women create, and you can kind of see it from the outside. You can see that the work that they're doing, and even connected with Catherine recently, and just had this kind of layer of just common ground of like, we know why we're doing this, and not even having to have that conversation before we start off the conversation about like, what's next. So I think that really is the true essence of like Black women in entrepreneurship.
And before we move on to everyone else, I have a question for you, Jae'da, specifically. You know, it's Black History Month, and all month long at A Beautiful Resistance, I've been asking people, first let me take a beat. Black History Month is every day, 365, 366 on leap year, but we're celebrating Black History Month in February. And as I've been asking at A Beautiful Resistance, we've been celebrating the Black history I carry with me. So I've been asking people, you know, what's the Black history you carry with you? And the work I see you do with Black Owned Boss is such critical work when it comes to stimulating Black economic power and really lifting those everyday unsung heroes that we don't think about. Can you just take a moment and hold space and give life to all of the ways in which Black entrepreneurs contribute to Black history and Black futures?
That's a loaded question, and it's so true, because I think that the whole purpose is creating visibility, one, for the things that already exist, because that's like half of the work already. That's more than half of the work already. If you're from Boston, if you're connected to the community, you know certain things exist. You know the things that we don't have. You can admit that. But I think that a lot of times people kind of come to the table of trying to address a problem without actually knowing what's currently fixing that solution in different pockets. And I think that that's really where we're starting at, like a base level of creating this visibility so that our history isn't just taught in pockets. It's not just passed down through legacies. It's not just passed on if you have the social capital or if you are in the know. It's just making it kind of blanket. And even myself, I'm not the oldest of the bunch or the youngest of the bunch in any space that I'm in, but like, I'm still learning Black history that is Boston. I'm still learning things every day, especially with kind of this heightened focus on Black history this month, I would say, for a lot of people. This year actually is like highlighting a bunch of different kind of those small things that may seem small, but they're really big, that these firsts, these onlys, these difference that a lot of people are experiencing and creating in Black history. So entrepreneurship is a really big part of that. Specifically, Chez Vu's kind of comes to mind in their establishment as the only roller skating rink in Boston proper, but they are a Black-owned business. They weren't always a Black-owned business, but to this day right now, they are a Black-owned business, and they are history. They are generations of people that were learning to roller skate, teaching their kids to roller skate when it was at the height of its time in the 90s, and definitely when it coming back now. I'm hoping when they are able to open up, people are coming back through those doors with those trends that they saw on TikTok, and kind of that history is retelling itself.
Thank you. The next question is for everyone. I will start with Nia on the answer, but you know, Boston is 25% Black despite its power structure and gentrification, making it look predominantly white. And we've seen the way coronavirus and this pandemic has decimated businesses of all kinds. But we also know that this is a city that regularly, as BECMA is fighting, regularly supports its white businesses and not its Black ones when it comes to contracts and other types of support. a study found that 41% of Black-owned businesses closed between the months of February and April 2020, compared to just 17% of white businesses. We see that type of pattern repeat when it comes to funding programs and just also how Black women and specifically have either lost their jobs or had to voluntarily quit their jobs during this pandemic. What are some of the challenges you faced during the pandemic at the beginning and even that you're facing now, Nia?
To speak particularly to my industry, we're restaurants, and restaurants we know have had a very hard shake, and then after that hotels and events. And so where you have events totally shut down, and for us our doors had to be closed, we had to lay off 90% of our staff from the beginning. We didn't have any kind of opportunity. We there was no other option there for us, that that's what we had to do. And when we think about it, restaurant industry, in fact, employs more mothers and more single mothers than any other industry as well. And so that literally was half of the people that I laid off. And so as I think Black women and Black women in business, there's the business side of us, but nothing is ever going to take away our emotion and care to nurture. And for me, that was hurtful. You know what I mean? On the business side of it, we had to make a decision. But just I'm like, but I love these women, I love these men that I employ. It's just very different. And we were still expected to, sit up straight and carry on. So to me, that was one of my struggles early on. Outside of that, when it came down to trying to secure PPP in terms of grants or the loans, you run into issues if you are underbanked, lack of banking history. I had to try to figure out as a new restaurant owner, because it doesn't matter how long I've been a professional, I had only been in the restaurant industry at that point in time for 1 year and 4 months. So within just coming into my second year, I'm trying to figure out that if I tell the bank that I might need to defer my payments, what is that going to look like? Luckily I had advice that said, don't do that. Because if you do that, that in fact, don't matter if the entire nation's happening, you're not going to be able to get forgiven. So, I had to figure out with my vendors, if I tell you as well, if I need to pause, what does that mean? Am I going to lose my supply when it's time for me to get back up? And those are the decisions that I had to figure out. I think that we all know our personal investment in terms of time, and we know that our own personal investment in terms of finances. And that was another decision that I had to make then. I haven't taken a salary, and this is not for any kind of applause, but it was a choice of how do I leverage even myself in this instance to make sure that I can keep some employed and continue to have this place in the community once we get on the other side of it. Because again, what good is it that when we talk about our city and the majority minority that we are here, we still only have about 30 locations that we can call our own and spaces that we can walk into. Only 8 of them have full liquor licenses and that you can actually enjoy a little bit more things in. So what good is it if we come on the other side of it with the less than 2% that we started with and just have 0? So my other pledge was simply, how do I again leverage myself to make sure that we continue to have this community landmark and that we can grow and have others. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And everyone, please be supporting all of the businesses that we're featuring today and all the ones we have in the community, because as Nia pointed out, like we have to make sure that there's still a structure to support on the other side of this, and there's still spaces that are ours and that we're growing them. Catherine, bring that tall girl energy.
I'm sorry, you have to ask the question again, because I was so into Nia at that moment. I'm like, yes,
Nia was giving us a whole sermon. I am the ministry of Nia Grace. Basically, I was asking about the challenges you faced during the early weeks of the pandemic, the ones you face now, and what's keeping you going, like what's keeping you still standing.
Yeah, so I'm a first-time mother of an Afro-Caribbean baby, and raising a boy in this society is hard. So personally, it was looking into my son's eye every day and just recognizing that his life is going to be changed, my life is going to be changed. And how do I work through a pandemic where daycare is closed? I have to wear my Superwoman cape that's currently raggedy because I've carried everyone else on it, and I have to swap it out for a new one, but I never get a chance to breathe, right? Because we all wear those capes. And so when it came to BAMS Fest, one, we're volunteer led, so I don't even have a salary. I give 80 hours a week, it feels like, to do this work because I want to be able to one day brag when I go to New Orleans or Detroit and say Boston has a thriving arts and culture, events, tourism, hospitality industries that are all Black and Brown led, run, and functioning. I want to be able to brag about that, but I can't right now. And so for me, what I had to do is I had to let all of my volunteer go, my core volunteer team go, because I wanted to preserve self-care. We're all Black and Brown people. We don't accept code switching in our organization, and let them go take care of themselves. And then as a leader, I had to sit with myself and ask the very same questions that Nia had. But we had just approved a strategic plan that never got actualized. So I had to rewrite that whole thing from scratch. And then look outwardly about how do we change our business model? How do we show up differently in times of COVID and beyond? How do we show up for the creative entrepreneurs that we love and want to see thrive, while still maintaining and being true to our mission, vision, and core values? So I spent the year literally asking different external stakeholders about my own leadership. What can I be doing differently? How do we continue to build goodwill? How do we challenge our partners, new and existing, to not be transactional anymore, but to be transformative with us and know that the times are different? And those are hard conversations to have. And because of all that work for COVID, we are now showing up differently in 2021. We are, checking in on artists more frequently. We are partnering with different organizations and businesses to do more training from a Black perspective of how to maneuver the financial system, how to apply for a license or permit for your business, how to be part of the supplier network and vendors for the city and state. And because of that, it's allowed us and allowed me to feel different, stand in the roots of my existence and on the shoulders that I stand on, about being stronger than ever because of COVID, despite its challenges. But recognize that, I'm still on a plateau. I haven't reached the mountaintop yet. So there's still some more things to deal with.
This ministry just keeps going. I feel so thankful today. Jae'da, come give us your services.
I think it's so funny because I feel like the work that I am doing is kind of on the receiving end of a lot of challenges that small businesses have, of like different venues or platforms for them to be visible or for them to participate, whether it's these larger markets or festivals and things like that, being able to kind of pivot and start creating spaces with different partnerships and people that I had been meeting and people that are in my corner of like, where can we show up safely? Where can we still provide unique opportunities for people to just come outside their house sometimes? Because I feel like even in these opportunities, I've spoken with people like, oh, I've been looking forward to this all week. And it's basically like, I've been looking forward to coming into this space, meeting new vendors and spending money all week. So like, I feel like that just hits home for me when I hear that from people, and even from vendors who have just been challenged with taking their business to the next level just because of the confidence that they have in the work that they're doing, or even like thinking small, like, okay, I'm just gonna sell on my website. I just do this or I just do that. But no, it's like you're creating this legacy for other people to feel inspired and to feel like they can take that next step in to go further. I had an actual moment with one of the vendor partners at a recent pop-up. She was setting up her stage and all of that stuff like that. And she just having that feeling of being in this store, in this space, and it brought her to tears. Like she was very emotional, just being there. And that was a really, I think, pivotal moment for me of like, I'm just doing this because it just feels right of what I need to be doing right now. And it's having this impact on people that I can't even imagine. She may not be the only person that is saying that out loud. And there's other people that may still have that they're feeling that they're just not even sharing, or they haven't even realized themselves. So I think that I'm blessed in the fact that I'm kind of on the receiving end of different challenges to turn those into opportunities.
Thank you so much, Jae'da. And before we move on to the next question, can you please plug your pop-up and how, where people can go and support?
Definitely. Black Owned Boss has been hosting a Spread Love Collective, as we like to call it, pop-up at South Bay, 28 District Ave in Dorchester. It is a rotating collective of different Black owned businesses, anywhere from beauty to vegan treats to plants, by Emerald City Plant Shop. Shout out to Q and Nita there. It's just
Black-owned plant shop. Sorry, we got it. Emerald is Black-owned. Let's just take a beat. Another Black-owned woman plant shop. So definitely support Emerald City. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, they are in the process of opening up to the public their own first Black-owned plant shop and botanical event space in the New England area. They'll be in Norwood. So it's just exciting to see kind of people taking that next step from just moments of meeting new customers and new spaces. So that's where we are. Check us out. We have 2 more weekends in South Bay.
Gian say she need help keeping her plants alive. I'm sorry, I have a button that says I killed another plant today, so I needed to laugh about that. My next question is for Big Baby Sis Catherine. You work in a predominantly white institution. I work in a predominantly white institution. I know that we both show up with our whole Black selves, and a lot comes with that. A lot comes with that journey. A lot comes with that day-to-day experience. And Q, I love you, so I feel the need to tell you that you are in the screen right now. And I wanted to ask, how do you leverage your power? And I think we both have a bit of privilege because of our position. So how do you leverage your power and your privilege to help the Black creative community?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, and being in a predominantly white institution, I always come with my full self and also wearing my community hat and ensuring that I can not only open the door, but widen it, take off the hinges, so that people at least can see the lights and see all the variety of opportunities. And advocate for cultural, social, and basic needs for creative entrepreneurs and artists who have traditionally not been invited in. I have to advocate for that all the time because that means the institution has to adjust themselves, not the community. And that's a huge shift for people. But to educate, not handhold, but to educate on if we're gonna do an event or a concert that features Black artists or Black musicians, please know that we hoot and holler, we move our bodies, because that is our natural progression when we co-sign on a lyric, or if someone hits a high note, or if something is funny. That's how we let loose, and to the institution to not be scared because they've never seen that before. So educating has been a huge and exhausting process, but is one that is absolutely necessary, because if I didn't do that, there'd be an increase in profiling. There would be some side eye from the community about even my own intentions and my affiliation with Bands Fest and things that I do. But also it would be a disservice to not maximize my power and privilege as a Black woman, for Black artists, for Black and brown communities, to manage up or level up to other folks who have dismissed us holistically and say, no, this is actually what you need to do, not what you want to do, it's what you actually need to do. or you can expect the hood to clap back in some way. And I'm just going to stand to the side and let the community tell you about yourself, because you weren't listening then, but you're going to listen now.
You're going to listen now. You're going to get this wisdom. You're going to drink this sweet tea. Word to Nia. My next question, and we'll start with you, Nia, is it's a two-parter. Because as you know, I celebrate Black joy. So 1, what gives you joy? And 2, who is a Black entrepreneur who inspires you?
The what gives me joy piece, I think, is really easy. It's definitely the people. Between, you know, walking in this space, for the folks that work here, for us getting ready to welcome in our customer, be it the one at the bar or the musician or the people at the table. It is just definitely people. We spend a lot of time as creatives, you know, really laying out a great environment for who we may call our customer, but we call our guests, right? And so we take a lot of passion. We're pouring our energy into it, and are just hoping that it's received the same way that we have, you know, desired that output to be. So at the end of the day, people definitely give me joy, and that's been something that I've missed a lot of in the last 10 months. And it took me a while again to look at myself and say, wow, you got something going on with you, girl. You ain't all the way right. And you know, that's walking in here and it being empty every single day. It kind of like took a toll on us. So for me, people just give me life, and being able to help or extend or feed off of each other's energy is something that I think that, you know, really definitely brings me joy. In terms of an entrepreneur that I look up to, it's not just one. And I think about my neighbors and my friends that are in restaurant business as well, and you know, even other creators. You know, when I think about Catherine, like that's a person that I look up to. I've heard Catherine's story on panels, but I've heard it in the corner of this here restaurant, and it resonates different when we in the corner in this here restaurant, and we're talking about the same journey, even in different markets. We're sharing, and I look up to her for her strength, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to walk in and be like, what card am I play today? And like we said, we don't code switch, so you're gonna get all this, right? And I love that, because I think for a long time I even had to look at myself and see, well, what am I doing in my day-to-day, and why do I feel so pained every night? And I knew it was because I wasn't able to truly be fully authentic. And so I take that kind of lead from a Catherine and others, and I look at their strength. I look at the strength of the Walcott family, who owned Wally's, and to be the first family-owned jazz club in the nation, and the oldest at this point, and how they keep it in the family, and the notes that I get from Frank and Paul. I'm like, okay, like they're like, nah, kid, you got this, just do it like that, you know? And I'm like, I love that. You know, only we can do that for each other. You know, I didn't have to schedule a phone call and get on your calendar. It's a quick call, text, whatever, and it's that pick me up. So for everyone who's done it before me, especially in this city that has been strife with racism and nepotism and all the isms, that to be able to see them do it and last, it just gives me joy and inspiration.
I love it. Jae'da, what gives you joy, and who are, you know, this is your chance to shout out a Black entrepreneur.
So what gives me joy is definitely the people, like Nia said. I think it's like in my space, it's a little bit different in terms of the people. I'm thinking about the entrepreneurs, the people that I come across, the stories that I hear. I know why I started my own business. So like, I know that they have that same passion within them that keeps them going, especially through a pandemic. The people that I'm meeting and that are still working and putting time into their passion, like I know that they're really in it. They're really about it. And I love hearing those stories of why did you start? Why are you still doing this? And kind of what kind of keeps you going. And I guess shout out, I want to take the easy cop out that like I get inspiration from so many different people, but I want to say more recently, there is a woman out in Atlanta, and she runs the Village Market Atlanta. If anyone's familiar, definitely check it out. It's an organization of like Black-owned bosses here, but like Village Village Mark is like up here, and they've been doing the thing. Her name is Dr. Key. Definitely check her out. She's doing a lot of work in terms of retail, having her own spot where there are businesses that she kind of sources and curates from, but then also doing these large scale kind of incubation and education, to the point that Catherine was making, how important that is for people to be able to navigate these spaces and to create community and bring different cohorts together. So that's kind of like the vision on the horizon for me. So I definitely take inspiration from her and kind of view her as my internet role model right now.
Love it. Catherine?
Okay, what brings me joy? There's many things, my son, one. But I think what I love the most is seeing Black artists and creative entrepreneurs be their most creative, authentic self and win in that front in terms of telling their story without any infringement at all. And to do that on several stages in communities that once historically isolated us, that things are progressively changing, may not be at the rate we want them to, but to see artists from the LGBTQ community, those who have different abilities, those who are in different genres, to perform in the South End, to perform in Chelsea, or to go to Worcester. I'm like, I could have never imagined that. So that brings me joy because I get to be a part of that legacy building. And then people, so all these phenomenal queens on this call. There is a woman out of Detroit, Nayla Ellis, who is the largest, a Black female entrepreneur, the largest beverage maker distributor right now, for her product, Ellis Island Tea, which is a Jamaican inspired tea. And I love her story because she literally started from the bottom, like just making tea out of her kitchen, but ended up getting the ear of other famous Black celebrities, which is almost rare nowadays, to support her company. And then secondly, Miss Fernandez West, who runs the Adunde Festival in Philly. One of the longest running cultural festivals that I truly love and take inspiration from, and has still maintained to do it even in her own exhaustion.
I love it. And everyone on this call inspires me, as well as our Belizean beauty, Gian. Shout out to OBC getting that big view love earlier this week. And shout out to Heather White running Trill Fit and decolonizing wellness. There's just so many amazing Black entrepreneurs to show love to. Nia, so much of, I think, being a Black woman in this world, but also like holding space in any economic way, is equal parts things you don't know and things that your faith trusts to be already written. Because it's kind of how we're raised to have that sort of resiliency and belief in self and belief in how things are going to change and be better. How do you find the courage to say yes, even when you're scared, to move scared, to run, like to keep rising to the occasion, and to say yes to new opportunities that might seem big and scary, or yes to the pivot, even when you don't exactly know how it might shake out?
I think one of the reasons why I'm probably a little bit more apt to say yes now is because when I was saying no, or considering it, or trying to make sure I brought a full idea to the table, I missed these opportunities. And then I was kicking myself saying, I should have just said yes, and I should have figured it out. Because truthfully, I'm watching my counterparts, who again, I feel like I was more qualified than in a lot of different spaces. They're saying yes and being clumsy about it, and they tell you that they don't know it, and they just rise. And I'm like, I'm silly, like I'm just silly, you know. So one of it was that beating myself up, like, you know what, girl, next time you're just gonna figure it out. And I think my first opportunity recently, or in the most recent time, was to even say yes to come here. When I came to Daryl's, I was an independent consultant, focused on marketing and management and business development. And for here, I was focused on their marketing. And it was like, hey, but would you be a manager? You know? And I'm like, no, in my head, because that's not what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm tired of working for you. Like, I'm trying to do this differently this time around. And I sat back down and I said, let me not rush into it, and ask somebody else the question. And we decided that, like, no, just say yes and see what happens, right? And all I can do is say from that point on is I'm gonna say yes to more things, because I rather it not work out. I rather it fail. I rather stumble all along the way, having never then had the experience. And having said yes got me to this point. And it really allowed me to get out my way. And that's kind of one of the biggest things that I learned in this time. So I say yes, even with the fear, just knowing that I am determined to work as hard as I did for other people and other companies to get to the yes that I really want to have. So that's really what it is at this point, is I'm gonna figure this out.
That's right. You're gonna figure it out. My next question is for everybody, and we'll start with you, Nia. What is your advice for that aspiring entrepreneur that's gonna hear this conversation?
My advice is to definitely be passionate about whatever it is that you're going after in this point. And I mean, it sounds really basic, but that's what gets me up every day. That's what allows me to figure something out. That's what allows me to take the space that was, you know, crutched by something that was beyond my control, but say, I'm not giving up on this. So for me, it's knowing that this is my passion and really accepting the fact that this is what I'm here to do. And that's what I would encourage anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Catherine?
I would say always keep this in mind. Being a visionary is lonely, but the seed that you plant feeds everybody. So harvest the ground that you stand on, because the results of that are endless. And in starting any business, know that you are enough and you deserve it.
Say the harvest the ground you stand on part one more time for the people in the back.
It's recorded. No, just kidding. It's recorded. I'm just going to drop the mic there.
Listen, water yourselves, sisters. Water yourselves. Jae'da, drop your jewel.
Ooh, the gems that have been shared. I'm not as prolific. I'm like, ooh. I would say that the biggest thing that I always tell people is to figure out what problem you're solving. That definitely comes from kind of just like my business background of like learning the fundamentals of business. Like if you're starting a business, you're solving a problem. It doesn't have to be charity. It doesn't have to be a mission-based organization, but you're solving a problem that people actually need what you're looking for. So if it is mission driven and you want to support a community and you're trying to drive change there, what is the problem that you're trying to address? And that'll keep you going for the long term, and definitely be passionate about what that problem is, but definitely hone in on what that problem is, how you're going to address it, and do you have the unique skills that you need to address this? If you don't, either you got to learn them or you got to bring on some people that do so that you can do it well and you're not doing a disservice to the work that you're trying to do.
Amen. So one of the things I like to do in conversations like this, because I find when we get together and talk and have panels and community discussions, a lot of it is talking about how we have to navigate hardships and giving each other advice and guidance, which is so necessary. but also being Black is lit. Being Black is beautiful. It is, we do have challenges and struggles, but it is not a burden. So I always like to sort of like raise that melanin magic. And there's this Ossie Davis quote I want to share. And while I'm talking, audience, we have time for one more, maybe two questions, but definitely one more. So if you have one, drop it in the chat. This quote by Ossie Davis, just to fill everybody a little. I find in me and Black a thing of beauty, a joy, a strength, a secret cup of gladness. And that is our lovely elder, the late great Ossie Davis, speaking to us. And I just want everyone to carry that with them today and every day. And if the audience has any questions, here we go. Jeanne would love for everyone to share specifically how they could support our work, starting with me. You didn't see that coming. You could follow me at Instagram at A Beautiful Resistance or sincerely.Jeneé if you're into selfies. Also bostonglobe.com/A Beautiful Resistance. I am the culture columnist, and I cover identity and social justice through the lens of culture and the arts, but A Beautiful Resistance is a multimedia series that I believe in. It's a community and movement that I've created. So, I want everybody to be a part of it and just feel loved and held and seen. So, that's how you can support me. Read, click, share. Nia.
Thanks. So you can find us at DCBK Boston on Instagram and Facebook. That's our website as well, dcbkboston.com. Definitely come down, have the sweet tea, have some chicken and live music. Looking forward to bringing that back. And we will be participating in Dine Out Boston, also known as Restaurant Week. So that'll be when we reopen our doors to our dining room, and that's March 14th. So hope to see you.
Love it. Jae'da?
You can support Black Owned Boss by definitely stopping by any of the pop-up events that we have, supporting the retail incubator that we have going on at the Bow Market, also by just checking out the directory and finding a new Black-owned business to support. And we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, /Black Owned Boss on all of the platforms. So just kind of dive into any of the work that we're working on and putting out into the world, like, share, follow, amplify.
Yeah, like, share, follow, amplify. Love it. Catherine.
As always, donate, no matter what that is. You can do that at bandsfest.org. Follow us on all social media, Bandsfest, very simple. We're about to embark on something very different for our festival this year, which will be happening in June, virtually. And we're starting our first podcast series called Artdacity, which debuts March 25th. So sign up for our newsletter, follow us on social media, share the content, tell a friend to tell a friend. It's important. And just love us. Pour your love onto us, because it is hard out here, but we're here for a purpose bigger than ourselves.
Thank you so much. And Jeanne, I'd love for you to camera on and tell everyone how to support you.
Hi, everyone. Ladies, thank you so much. This panel was amazing. Jeneé, you dethroned Oprah. This is what you should be doing. You truly are in your purpose. But we appreciate all you ladies sharing your time today, dropping these gems, making us smile. Yeah, and I wanted to say thank you to our sponsors who make the work at Innovation Studio happen. All the programs that we put on are for free for entrepreneurs just starting, our launch programs, our pitch programs. So thank you to the Cummings Foundation, Bank of America, and EDA. It's so important to be able to provide these resources to entrepreneurs. I know, as Jeneé mentioned, I'm the owner of Organic Bath Co., but we're not here today for me. So I just want to reiterate for all the women on this stage, vote with your dollars. That's how you can directly support them. Buy gift cards, buy swag, show up to the pop-up events, donate, get a Globe subscription, right, Jeneé? That's what I was waiting for you to say. It's $1 for 6 months. We can do it.
We really can. $1 for 6 months, guys. I know it's a pricey subscription, but if you do the 6-month thing, it's really helpful. It's the end of Black History Month, but A Beautiful Resistance content was free all month. The paywall was lifted on our microsite. So go back and watch all 8 episodes. The final, the finale for Black History Month will drop on Saturday. So featuring the lovely Liz Rock. So also support Trailblazers, Runco, and go out there and, be seen on these streets running and enjoying your beautiful Black selves. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.